With the Roval in the rear view, there are now 8 drivers in the NASCAR Cup playoffs. Who's going to survive? Who's going to advance? Brian and I are in to recap all that was the Roval, as well as get you set for probably our favorite race of the year at Las Vegas, baby. Uh, we'll get you set. We'll tell you who to bet. We'll tell you who to fade. And try and figure out all this shenanigans. That and more on today's Angle of Pursuit podcast.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on grass.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining still in Vegas. He will be at the race if you are going to be there. Throw him a little DM on the Twitter machine. He can come take pictures, sign autographs, kiss babies, whatever you want. How's everything going in Sin City?
It's going great, man. I'm looking forward to move past the Charlotte Roval after not having any Kyle Larson exposure whatsoever on the show, personally, any books. That was an absolute dominant performance by him. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Vegas, which might wind up being another Kyle Larson dominant performance. But yeah, I'm stoked. I'm excited to go over the odds today because there's some short numbers.
Yeah, starting with your boy Kyle Larson. Brian, there's only 4 races left. I'm very sad.
I don't know if you could be as sad as I am. I am actively
we were just talking before we started recording about your new schedule, especially when you're in Vegas, and like you're literally gonna have so much time on your hands. At least I have like a child that will require my attention like 23 hours a day. So
I honestly, I don't know what I'm going to do because today before I sent my wife away on a plane. So now I'm here by myself for the rest of the week to just look at numbers. I was actively trying to get her to approve me to fly out here on at least the next 2 races post Vegas. So that way I could get as much betting action as I could for the last 4 races. Cause I'm going to miss it mightily.
Yeah. And then we have like 2.5, 3 months till we get to start this whole thing all over again. It's crazy. It's so sad, but
I'm gonna lose all the money on college basketball like I did.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to for Feast Week, and you're gonna tell me all these like first quarter parlays that are definitely not gonna hit, but that's okay. All right, let's look at some DraftKings lineup. Let's run through it. We can talk some Roval action. Present to my screen.
How did you enjoy the race, or did you enjoy the race at all?
I had to go to like an apple picking pumpkin thing on Sunday.
That's what happens when you have a kid.
Yeah, so it was like a lot of phone time. So I didn't really enjoy it. And like I thought maybe I had some decent running order plays. I was kind of hoping Byron would pull something out. Yeah. Obviously I had Larson, so that didn't hurt, but I don't know, there was like a lot of stuff I was kind of rooting for, and I was kind of keeping track on my phone and trying to be invested in apple picking and pumpkin picking and all that fun stuff. So
dad stuff.
Yeah. So, but I put in my time this weekend so I can watch the Vegas race on Sunday and be very happy. I wish I was there with you, but first year is crazy one. So let's talk through our lineups. Let's figure it out and see where we went right and where we went wrong. So let me make this a little bigger. SVG was fine. Like he looked really good initially. 21 laps led, 10 fastest laps. For as expensive as he was, obviously his name wasn't Kyle Larson. So unless you had Kyle Larson, you basically were spending money on the wrong guy.
Yeah, I mean, the SVG was fine early, and I think that was just the case of track position being king. Because I mean, something we've learned over the almost 3 years now of the Gen 7 cars, that clean air is king in this particular version of the NASCAR Cup Series vehicle. So, he was fine with the track position, and it wasn't until late when he and Allmendinger actually took tires off cycle from everybody else that he was able to drive back through the field And
Yeah.
this was just another example of how impossible passing seems to be in this car.
Yeah, and I feel like this is like the third or fourth week in a row where we've been kind of frustrated by the lack of movement or like ability to really make a difference on the track, which is kind of
Yeah.
annoying. Um, I don't know. Larson was the best car, he won, so that makes me happy, but cutting the rest of the field was whatever.
Yeah. It does make you wonder though, as I was watching Kyle Larson just pace the field and not even make it close. How do they do this? I don't really understand like Bristol and then now this. Are they was their car light too, just like Alex Bowman's, which is a whole nother conversation to have post race, like him getting kicked out of the playoffs, disqualified because his car was 15 pounds too light or something. I heard,
Yeah.
it just, it's wild to me that one guy could be that much faster than everybody else.
He's just that good, especially when they nail the setup for him and
True.
give him that slight advantage. That combined with his driving ability, rocket ship.
Yeah.
That's basically what happens. So when Hendrick brings the rocket to the track, he's Neil Armstrong and there's no stopping him. He's on landing on the moon.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they miss the setup, he can kind of be competitive, but not that same difference. Byron was good, not great, but good. Another top three finish for him. He's quietly been being much better week to week, which I think is
Very solid.
really interesting. I'm curious to see if he can be that kind of fourth option as we've been kind of like I feel like, and it probably won't work out this way, but we feel pretty confident in Larson, Christopher Bell, and then I think Reddick is that's who I've been kind of comfortable with. Although based on Brian's face, it's probably not as comfortable as we were hoping. Maybe we're
Look,
just wish casting holding that 14-1 on him to win the
I was just
championship.
gonna say cautiously optimistic with his
Yeah,
long championship future.
yeah. So we'll see. Hamlin. I have this like push and pull in my head because like I don't think Denny can win Phoenix against everybody else that I think will be there. But he's also really good and could easily be that fourth car, even if he's not the favorite or even like near the top when we
Yeah.
actually get to Phoenix. So like I keep like not including him, but I probably should. And then it's like, okay, well, is it going to be Byron and Hamlin and Bell and
Well,
Larson?
I think something to consider with Denny Hamlin is all of the trials and tribulations that team has, endured this year after their tremendous start where they looked like quite possibly the best team, their championship favorite. They kind of went through a long ass lull where they were kind of middling up front inside the top 10. And then he had all these issues with wrecking. And then he had the issue with NASCAR, then filing the suit. And he somehow still makes it through to the round of 8. And then today I saw on Twitter, I forget who posted. I don't know if it was a NASCAR thing, an overlay of Kyle Larson being asked who he thinks is his toughest competitor, toughest championship contender going into the playoffs. And he himself said he thinks it's Denny. And when you have the guy in the sport, Kyle Larson, still calling out the 11 team as who he thinks is probably his toughest competition, I think that just shows you when you're able to get past the stuff that he has, watch out, because if they find the setups very similar to like Ryan Blaney last year, where
Yeah.
they were never great, they were okay. They had some issues and then they won at Charlotte and then they just kind of took off the rest of the year.
Yeah, I also have this weird feeling in the back of my head that Denny's gonna pull Logano and just like dominate the field, win in Vegas, and be able to focus all of his attention on Phoenix, and
That honestly,
that is scary.
yeah, I was just going to say, if Denny wins this weekend, that is the worst case scenario for Kyle Larson and the rest of the guys and the other 3 dudes that make it
Yeah,
through to the championship 4. Because out of the remaining drivers in the playoffs, Denny is probably the worst of the 8 at Phoenix from
yeah,
just past results and what we've seen of late.
yeah. Like I was even talking to Wormy, trying to pick his brain about like where we think prices will be, and he doesn't think Hamlin will be like more than like 3.5 to 1. He'll be one of the longer shots, but he'll be 3.5 to 1. So we'll take a quick look at championship odds here in a second, but if you believe in Denny, if you think he can potentially win this week, lock in his spot, and have a really good chance to kind of prep for Phoenix, now is probably your last time to jump in, because if he wins this week, obviously it's gone. If he wins next week, obviously it's gone. And then if he gets to Phoenix with a chance to win 315, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. So back to DraftKings. Let's talk the rest about this. Obviously, Gibbs and Briscoe crashing early was not ideal. Austin Dillon is just whatever. Austin Dillon. Yeah, don't love that lineup. I felt like we were in a really weird spot. We were kind of making square pegs going around holes and didn't love a lot of our
Yeah.
builds.
I mean, we played a lot of strategy
Uh-huh.
plays based on who had to do what.
Yeah, yeah, and I think some of it was pretty spot on. I think some of it was also maybe we got a little too cute for our own good. Christopher Busher was the popular play of the week, and he was fine, but like,
Yeah, he was kind of blah, but that goes to the lack of being able to pass. And that was
yeah,
something, even when he won at Watkins, he needed a caution to come out at the right time for him to make up all the track position, which put him up front in order for him to even race for the win.
yep. And then Ty Reddick did just enough to advance.
However,
Mhm.
let me say, had Tyler Reddick not damaged his car, I think he's possibly up there contending inside the top 5 come the end of the race. Despite him winning stage 1 and putting himself behind the 8 ball from everybody else, his car was fast prior
Yeah.
to wrecking.
We did have one really good lineup. Obviously, had Kyle Larson, so that helps. This is the one we actually built that was kind of our like juggernaut lineup. Uh, Larson, SVG. We did the Busher thing here. Kyle Busch was whatever. Carson Hocevar, us and 16% of our best friends jumped on that, but 40 points, really nice at 6,100. And the Zane train was also solid, top 20 day. Not mind blowing, but at 5,800 to get a solid 26 points, I don't hate it.
Yeah.
So that was our best lineup by far. As always, make sure you're subscribed to the newsletter. We post it every race day. DraftKings, our favorite DraftKings value, including Carson Hosvar, who Brian wrote up. I also wrote him up, so we were on it together. Brian's favorite bets, my favorite bets, links to the episodes, our final betting card, all that good stuff. Speaking of the final betting card, not a great week, and honestly, more of a losing week considering I had Kyle Larson at 10-1, cash that, and Chevy to win, which is probably my favorite bet at -140. I'm glad I jumped on that
Yeah.
when I did. So that was nice to cash both of those, but I don't know. It was a frustrating week for sure.
Yeah,
And
and I
Joey
think
Logano was like
dude,
the Ford all day, or him and Cindric were battling back and forth. And of
I
course,
had a feeling like
he was
Joey
not the guy at the end.
Logano is just
Close.
the dude who, if he has track position, he's gonna be able to maintain it. And
Yeah.
that was one of the reasons why I liked him pre-flop. Just his numbers were too long for a guy that was so good qualifying at the Roval, which he did again. And like next year, these numbers. If we go back to the Roval, well, I mean we're scheduled to, but who knows? Maybe they'll change their minds, rightfully so, and go back to the Oval. But Logano is just so good at qualifying at the Roval. His pre-flop numbers were far too long to avoid. And with everything on the line that he had with the playoffs, like you knew he was going to be strategizing to do, whether it was 2 tires, whether it was less fuel, like wishing for a caution, all that type of
Yep.
shit to stay up
Yep.
front.
But it was also not quite enough to get us home, which that would have
Effing
cashed
Cindric,
would have been nice.
bastard.
You had Dinger over Reddick. That was a good call there, and Bubba top 10. That was probably the one of your best bets.
Yeah, that was my favorite number of the week
You
for
called
sure.
it out pre-flop. You called it out on the NASCAR betting preview show. You called it out when we chatted again. So like that was a good bet. Bubba's consistently underrated. So that was a nice call. You're obviously kicking the shit out of me.
Bubba also had another penalty, and he still got a top 10 this week. So say what you want about him at road courses, but he is way better than he
Yeah,
was.
yeah. Let's look at the championship odds real quick before we dive into this week's race, just to kind of get a bearing. So Larson is 3-1. Chris Bell is 425. Reddick is 475. Byron is 7. Hamlin is 750. Blaney is 750. Logano is 12. Elliott is 12. Elliott being at or around the same base. He's been the same price between. I feel like he's been between 9 and 12 all season, no matter he wins, loses, all that. It's really funny.
Yeah.
Obviously, Logano's numbers were much longer than he was going to make it, and then because of inspection, he ends up making it the final 8. So I guess as the numbers sit right now, is there anything interesting to you? Any prices that you're jumping on, or if you don't have exposure, you would be jumping on?
Yeah, so I think going back to the guy we were talking about prior to even jumping in here, I think that's Denny Hamlin. If you don't have exposure to Denny right now, I think this is the time to add some simply because he's really good at 1.5s. He's really good at Vegas. When we go to Martinsville in a couple of weeks, that's just another one of the tracks that Denny absolutely smashes at. And it's going to take another Hail Melon, I would think, to knock him out, considering he's currently one of the first 4 in to the championship 4, just based on where they start the round of 8. So I like Denny's number at 750. I can't really get to Logano or Elliott. Just like when you look at Logano's pre-practice numbers this week in Vegas, like Superbook laid him at 18.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he's
like
around that number
Logano is
every.
somebody I'd rather just bet week to week at this point.
Yeah.
There was some really good numbers like right before the round of 8 where if you could have got him like 25, 30, 35, whatever, maybe you're more interested at that point. But we both have some pre
Yeah.
season stuff that we're just kind of gonna ride out and see what happens.
Now I am quite disappointed in myself because being here before the Roval, the championship futures that were still up, Logano was 40-1
Yeah,
at that time. And I almost fired,
I know.
but
We talked about it,
and I couldn't add it. And
and I
I
think
came
that's
back
okay.
and yeah, but I stupid enough. I added 18 when they posted them again, which is way better than what you get at like Caesars or something. And I think if
Yeah,
that's available to you, like if you're in Vegas and you have Superbook and you can get Logano at 18, despite him still currently being below the cut line right now, we've seen what happens in these rounds. Guys blowing engines, guys wrecking out. We know Larson's propensity to wreck. Like who the hell knows?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think Byron, just given his consistency over the last handful of races and where we're going, makes a lot of sense at his number. And then I think
True.
Denny at 750. I'm in on both of those. With that being said, let's flip over and talk this week's race. I'll start with FanDuel, and then we'll work our way into Caesars for more speakeasy type stuff. Larson 370. I've seen him as low as 290. Byron 850. Reddick 950. Numbers are a little interesting. I was looking at Caesars before we started. Chris Bell was like 650 over there, and he's 10-1, 9 or 10-1 in a lot of places. So do your shopping. If you have options with multiple places, look to get action. If you only have one place and they're posting a bad number, I would try your best to avoid it. If you absolutely want to smash it, smash away. But like, I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
betting a 650 on Chris Bell in it. There's 9 and 10 in market. That's just seems like
Yeah.
a too big of a leap. If
Yeah.
it's
It's just out of
750,
principle.
yeah, if it's 750 versus 8, whatever. But yeah, I want the best of the number, even if it means I don't get it. So I guess let's start with Larson. We
Nope.
talked a little bit about it. He could absolutely smoke the field, but he could also crash and be out in stage 1. And less than 4-1, especially at this point. Like if he goes
Yeah.
out and dusts the field, qualifies in the polls, the best car in practice, what's his number? 280?
Yeah.
250? I'd
I was
much
just gonna
rather
say,
bet it at
like,
that part.
I don't think they can really lower it much because then they're not going to receive any action on it. Like they're in the tough situation this week where I feel like they purposely open the markets this way to take money on everybody else.
Yeah.
And then they're
Adjust
going to
accordingly.
somehow find a way to get money on Larson post practice.
Yeah,
Because if he goes out and he pulls it and he's the best car, they're going to take in a bunch of money on him from the sharps.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm not, like you said, I'm not taking 370. If he goes out and dusts the field and I don't have any action this week, I'm much more comfortable and I can live with myself this week as opposed to last week, seeing what he did, which was we should have known to take a little bit of Larson, but
Yeah, I'm happy to let him balloon the other numbers and just give me little extra value on those other guys. I think over the grand scheme of things, over the course of multiple races, the guy who's absurdly priced um, will end up losing more than they win. There's actually a no price at Caesars that you can get action on if you want to.
I
It's
think I
it's
think it's minus
juicy.
370 now.
Yeah, so it's juicy, but
That's still really good when you
if you're
consider,
for a no price, that's
yeah.
pretty amazing. So um,
And
there's
this is not Scotty
opportunity.
Scheffler going out on the course and Xander Schauffele running up to him and taking his knees out with his
Yeah,
3-iron. Like this is a guy who could lose a tire. You know, if you get a no price on a golfer, there's nothing preventing them from doing their job other than just having an off week, which that's likely, but in that sport, it's less likely than a guy wrecking or having
yeah.
an issue with another driver in NASCAR.
And you could there's ways to get action on Larson if you don't want to hit the outright at this point. You can get Chevy, you can get Hendrick, you could look around at different markets to try and get a little action now and then adjust accordingly once qualifying and everything's done. But yeah, I have a
A
hard
little
time betting him.
I was just going to say a little admission of my own. I've been shopping for a way to get Larson, and one of the ways I've been contemplating doing it is betting both military academies, Army and Navy, on the money line, Buffalo Bills Sunday money line, and then Larson at like I think it's 3-1, and it goes up to like 7-1. But
Yeah, that seems
you're
like a
betting,
lot of pieces to get up.
yeah, but you're betting almost minus 1,000 money
Don't
lines
let
with
don't let Will Levis get you, Brian. Don't let him do it.
then that's why I
Um,
haven't fired on it yet. So
is Kyle Busch running in the trucks?
no trucks this week, unfortunately.
Oh,
Yeah, it's just Xfinity.
yeah. Maybe you can if you want to tie him to like a golfer or something. I think that's the way to get a little Larson exposure in your portfolio. Beyond Larson, Byron, Reddick, Hamlin, Bell, Blaney, Logano, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex inside 20-1. Who's jumping out? Who's compelling? Who are you interested in?
So I like the trio of Toyotas right after Byron there. Reddick, Hamlin, and Bell. I don't hate Reddick at 9.5. I have it at 10. I would play it at 9.5 if I didn't have any action because I think that's the best number available. And then quite honestly, both Denny and Bell, I'm fully comfortable taking them at 10. Now, Denny, I do worry because he has a history of not qualifying well here at Las Vegas, simply because that's just Denny. He doesn't give a shit about practice or qualifying at certain tracks, and this is one of them. Whereas Christopher Bell, he's won the pole twice here in the next gen car. He's been really good at Vegas. I believe it was last fall when had the race gone an extra lap or two, he probably passes and wins the race against Kyle Larson. So
Yeah.
I think Bell is a sleeper here this weekend, and I would not be surprised whatsoever if he's starting on the front row next to Kyle, and his number is 5-1 or 6-1 post
Yeah.
practice and
So
qualifying.
like would you take it at 9?
Who, Christopher Bell?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, probably like
Would you take it at 850?
no. Oh man. I mean, if that's the only thing available to you, it's only $1.50 difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate that. Honestly, I don't really hate that either. It's
Yeah, I'm just saying like if you want to play the options game or whatever you want to call it and you expect him to qualify well and you're looking on Saturday night when we're talking and he's 550, 650 and you got it at 859, you're going to feel really good. Now he could go the other way and just as easily be 12, 13, 14. So
Yeah, but at the same time, like, okay, so he's running it back and it's with the same sponsor as he did last fall with Ream, where he qualified on the pole, finished second. I mean,
He's gonna finish a lap short, is what you're saying.
say what you will about like those type of things with paint schemes, but we all know that Bubba Wallace isn't going to win driving the Latos car, which he's doing this weekend, which sucks. And then like Denny when he's in the, I think he's in the Yahoo car, or maybe that was Bell in the Yahoo car. But yeah, like certain schemes are like kryptonite for drivers. So I like Christopher Bell this week a lot.
So I'm looking at iFantasy Races speed charts from the last 3 years of Vegas. He is much better in the fall than he is in the spring. His speed rankings in the spring is 9th, 7th, and 21st. His speed rankings in the fall is first and also first. So I'm gonna look up the. I'm gonna
Remember,
go.
we're talking about the only guy in the series that has gone to the championship for 2 years in a row.
Yeah, and he's gonna do it 3 years in a row, and he's gonna take that shit home.
And you also, I think it's also important to remember, like teams that felt comfortable going into last week. I know, for instance, like Larson and Christopher Bell, they weren't technically locked in, but you have to think that part of them they had 1 foot out the door at Vegas already going into the Roval because they know how important this first race of the round of 8 is. You win, you get 3 weeks essentially to prepare over your competition for the championship race.
Christopher Bell, welcome to the betting card. This is why we do this, Brian. We talk, you sell me on it, I add it to the card, and then I can come back and blame you later when it doesn't work. Beyond Bell, and I think Hamlin.
Yeah.
Blaney, Logano, Chase, Kyle Busch. Like I told you, I'll tell everybody else. Martin Truex should be like 50-1, 60-1. Like I'm not betting him inside 20-1. So if you want to bet him, go for it. I am not.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
But
I
like,
almost feel like Martin Truex Jr. is like fool's gold at this point. I know he's good
his
here at Las
numbers
Vegas.
are going to look good because he's been good in the past, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like Aaron Rodgers. He's in a different state, and you can't fire.
And also too, did anybody not hear his radio where he literally said like, "Can we just get he basically said, "Can we get the F out of here? Like, can they just demolish this track or some shit?" He was over it last week, and this is one of the best road course racers, albeit he's never enjoyed the Roval apparently. But yeah, this is a guy who's already looking forward to retirement.
Yeah, I'm happy to see him go. I will thank him for his Sonoma performance and building my bankroll. But yeah, adios, Marty. Have a enjoy retirement. Get your Bass Pro Shop on, and
We'll see you at the Daytona 500 next year.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit longer shots. Okay? Let's say this. What is the driver with the longest odds that you would actually consider going outright? Because I don't think, while we've seen different drivers win, non-playoff drivers win, longer shots win, especially over the past month or so, this really feels like a race where the haves beat the have-nots, and you really want one of the elite names. Or am I focusing too hard on the top of the board, and there's a name that you want to throw out towards the bottom?
No, I wholeheartedly agree. I went back and I looked at the 2 fall races, just finishing results, and the top 10 is going to be filled with playoff guys.
Yeah.
And I mean, at this point in the season, the reason why these guys made it to the round of 8, I mean, you could have a debate about Joey Logano, but dude's championship pedigree.
I mean, he won the championship 2 years ago.
Yeah, like the reason why these guys made it here is because of how good they can show up when it matters most. And you know, with three races to go before the championship race, I really don't see a non-playoff guy winning. We said this at Kansas, yes, but Vegas isn't going to have the tire wear. Vegas is not going to have the weirdness that Talladega presents. Vegas is not a Watkins Glen where if you're out front, it's literally impossible to pass. It's going to be difficult, extremely difficult, as we saw in the spring when Kyle Larson aero blocked Tyler Reddick, which, goes to show you like Larson can be beat here if somebody is willing to put the bumper to him or make a little contact. But yeah, it's going to be the who and the championship guys that are going for the win here.
If I told you a non-playoff driver won the race, who is that? I have two names in mind, but I don't know if they're actually realistic or if I'm just
based on number. The
pushing a
first
little.
guy I would say is Chris Buescher.
No.
Because we've seen RFK show up sometimes at intermediate, especially Brad Keselowski. And I think Buescher has shown a little bit of speed too. So I like the number there. I'm probably not going to bet it. And then the other one would probably be Chastain. I love Gibbs at 24, and I do have a little bit on that. I couldn't resist, but I mean, we saw Chastain win Kansas. He clearly does not give an F. And now that with Suarez eliminated from the playoffs, there's now no issues with that team allocating resources towards the 99 from the 1.
I'm once again asking you to back Ross Chastain, Brian says. That's not where I thought you were going. I added the Gibbs number, by the way. I can't help myself. He's gonna win a race and I need a little bit of exposure. Bubba is interesting. I don't actually think he can win, but number, current form, track results, as long as he doesn't try and fight Kyle Larson in the infield, I think he has a chance to win the race.
That's so funny you say that.
I'm so happy we were
that.
sitting right there when that happened.
Yeah.
Like NASCAR history happened like right in front of our face.
Oh man. So that's funny you say that. So today or was it yesterday? Yeah, last night when odds dropped at Superbook, the first one that I saw that I almost bet was Wallace at 40. And
yeah,
the thing though is like at some point plus CLV only gets you so far. Like clearly I don't think that number is going to be the same post practice and qualifying, but can Bubba actually win the race? I really don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet Gibbs. It's a little wish casting. It's a little hopium, but
okay. So the one thing I will say about Ty Gibbs, sorry, I'm getting long winded here. So out of those two guys, even if Bubba Wallace puts it inside the top 10, and we've seen him do this numerous times this year, his number from 31 is probably dropping to 20.
Yeah, 22.
22.
Yeah,
Gibbs
nobody wants to bet him. We always get extra points on him. We did the last week.
Yeah, exactly my point. Whereas Gibbs, who prior to this round of the playoffs, he was opening at 14-16-1. If he goes out and qualifies like he did this spring and at every other 1.5 that he has this year, this number is cut in half likely.
Mm-hmm. And he's probably not winning either, but the CLV will be there, and that's all that matters. Brian, if I had a bank account with CLV in it and I could spend that on other things, it would be.
We'd be rich, man.
We'd be retired.
Yeah.
I will say, in terms of speed rankings, and you can take speed rankings for what you want. His best run at Vegas was the spring race, which he was 5th. Other than that, it's been 21st, 20th, and 13th. Bubba Wallace has run here, what is this, 5 times? Where's he at?
A bunch.
His first run was 18th, but then he was 3rd and 5th. So he's got 2 top 5 speed rankings in his 5 runs, and then his 14th and 24th. So he's gotten progressively worse, but he's got 2 top 5, which is something only a handful of drivers actually can do. Like Byron only has 2, Denny only has 1, Blaney has 3. Ross, speaking of Ross, has been 2nd, 4th, 8th, and 11th. So he's been kind of trending the wrong way. But and as I mentioned with Bell, 9th, 1st, 7th, 1st, 21st, 1st. And that doesn't even guarantee you a win, but that is interesting to see kind of those trends and kind of where everybody's
Yeah.
at. Okay, so any other outrights do you think are worth discussing? Anybody else you want to potentially add to the card? Anyone you want to add to the card, but you're waiting for maybe to float and market a little bit, maybe a little post qualifying bet if they look awesome. Anyone just tickling your fancy, but you haven't quite gotten there yet from the actual bet perspective.
So I'm going to be betting my guy Tyler Reddick this week somehow, some way.
Yeah,
I might just lay this 9.5 because
feels
that
pretty good.
that's probably the best available at the moment.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think Reddick, same thing as Denny, like surviving what they did after basically wrecking out of the race last week. It gives them a whole new lease on life that with
yeah,
the point standings reset, like all that stress is gone. He could just go out and race, which he was probably the second best car in the spring. And
yeah,
although, like you see in Bell's like raw data here, the spring race and the fall race don't usually correlate to each other because of temperature difference and how teams have evolved over the rest of the season. So obviously you can't just look at that and say this guy's going to be great outside of Larson. That is, but I think Reddick's going to be good this weekend once again.
yeah. Yep, like Reddick's 8 here, Hamlin's 8 here, which I think is interesting. Byron's 850. Like I want some Byron. I can't figure out how I'm gonna do it yet. Maybe I'm hopeful that he either someone else looks a little bit better in practice. Maybe the Toyotas look really good and he goes to 10. And then I jump at that point.
I feel like this is also Kyle's view of William Byron at Las Vegas is skewed from the last time we came here in the spring and
Mm-hmm.
Byron
Mm-hmm.
won the race.
Yeah, there's a unique thing that happens when you're holding a ticket on a driver in person and they win the race,
Yeah.
and you happen to get them at 17-1 at that point.
Yeah, that was
Shout to the
crazy.
Circa. I appreciate you for taking care of me with that. But yeah, me and Willie B at Vegas have a little have a very unique relationship, let's say. So I'm
Yes.
very excited to see him perform well. But he's been good here. He's been trending in the right direction. It actually looks like he can be competitive again, which I think is really good. Obviously, like you mentioned, his car wasn't quite great, so that is a little concerning. But maybe now that Bowman's out of the picture, they can focus a little more on the 24 as they kind of spread their resources between 3 cars instead of 4. I don't know.
Well, and then I also think too, like going back to the spring race, again, it doesn't fully correlate, but it is a good indicator of where a guy could be at this track. Trash bag gate. Had William Byron not had the trash bag get over his
Yeah,
radiator
he
or be
probably
over
won't.
his front grill, like who knows? He's probably competing with Larson, and he was actually the fastest car
Mhm.
prior to that happening.
Yeah, he was the best car on track, and then he got a trash bag on his fender and ruined his day basically. So,
Yep.
um, and
And he
those are the
still
little
wound up
things
finishing
too
in the
that
booth.
like people like you look at the raw data from a couple years ago and you kind of forget about those like those little um things that kind of change the way the day goes. That's why I really like iFantasy Race's asterisk report,
Yeah,
because he puts
that's
a
a really
lot
good
of
one.
that like little weird stuff that's like, oh wait, he actually was awesome until stage 3 when this really weird thing happened and completely skewed his numbers. Let's go into the speakeasy. Let's see if we can't find some value. So with Larson being, you can get Chevy at plus 120. You can get I think it's Finish. I always forget. I got finishing position props. I don't know.
It was
There's
right
ways
there.
to go.
Go back to the finish tab. Yeah, it's right. That's the top. They have them just listed in a spreadsheet. Top
No, I
finish.
was looking for Hendrick to win the race.
Oh,
See what that number was.
I'm surprised they don't have.
It's probably in there. I'm probably just missing it.
No, because yeah, it would be the like winning team.
Yeah, I feel like it's always super hard to find. All right. Winning top Chevy. So Larson's expensive. There's got to be value, right? Byron 360, meh. Chase,
Yeah.
Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain at 9-1.
I don't hate that. Honestly, out of all of the other
That
Chevys,
seems
that's the only
decent.
one that I'd be interested in.
Yeah, that seems decent. Obviously, we're not. Neither of us are adding into the card, but that one 9-1 at this track where we think he can put. Especially if you think the Toyotas are like the shit, and like Hamlin and Reddick and all these guys are battling, and Chet Ross gets like top 3, top 5. I think that could be interesting.
Let me also add right here in the top Ford market, I think you can get away with playing both Brad and Buescher and call it a day on Fords and just don't even add them any other way on the weekend, because we've seen it with this camp before where earlier in the year it was SHR guys surprising, running really well, Noah Gragson and Josh Berry and Ryan Preece and stuff. But with that team disbanding and now none of them in the playoffs, like, can you really trust them to be fast? And then
No.
Penske, we see it every friggin' time we come to Las Vegas. Joey Logano's going to qualify on the front row, and then he's going to sink like a rock. And
Yep, you go to MGM and you bet them both to not top 10, and then you cash the ticket and you go home happy.
which I'm so sad that books here don't have those markets posted, especially for the race that's in Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes on race day you'll get lucky, but
Yeah.
Bubba 10-1 top Toyota, Gibbs 850.
No. I would just Bubba at 10-1 when his outright price is 31. I'd rather bet him outright at FanDuel.
I actually like that they're doing this because then you can kind of like look at through top 3
Yeah, it's
versus top
so
5 and
much
figure
easier.
out. Because I want to bet Gibbs. So like
So
he's
bet
550 for a top 3, and he's
bet 365 top 10 is plus 120. That's the best Gibbs number available right now.
yeah. Um.
Obviously,
Yeah, like,
Vegas, I don't have access to that, but I played it at an offshore.
but yeah, is it like better to get the top Toyota number or just take top 3? Like that seems. Like it
Oh, so
seems
you're
like
going for like way up there with Gibbs.
well, if Gibbs like I'm just thinking like doing the math like if the top 3 is 550 and I can get 8 whatever to 1 8 I think it's 850.
So he's 6-1 top 3 at DK.
Yeah,
I see your
like
point though, but what's
like
more likely to happen for instance, with the Toyotas being priced the way that they are, you have Denny, Bell, and Reddick all within single digits.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out if it's worth it or if it's worth the even if you're not getting quite the best number just to give you that little extra wiggle room. But then I'm like maybe a top 5 is more likely. What's his top 10 price to bet 365?
Plus 120.
All right, that's going on the card. Heavy. Heavy.
Yeah. Yeah, his top 3 numbers 6-1 DK. I would rather play that than play the top Toyota market, because even though it's only 2 spots, it does allow for a
He could
Christopher
be the
Bell, a
third
Denny.
car and win that bet.
Well, that's what
He
I'm gonna
could,
say. He could be the third best Toyota and
yeah,
cover if Larson wrecks out, so
yeah. Man, these numbers suck.
I was just gonna say the market is super short this week, and
Yeah.
it's been difficult to get down on a lot of stuff. You got to beat the market essentially.
The other thing is like, and a lot of smart people have been talking about this. Like, unless there's a screaming value, be patient, let the market come to you.
Yeah, yeah,
If
and
you end up
especially
not,
wait to see guys unload.
yeah,
You
save
know,
yourself because you might bet something thinking you're some this crazy value, and then they actually suck, and then their number goes up. Let's go back here. So Byron plus 150 to over Larson. Like I feel like this if you want to fade Larson a little bit, that's one way to do it.
so simply because I played this exact bet at a little bit of a better number at Superbook, I'm going to add this to the card.
Yeah, I think it's a good number.
Look, Kyle Larson is all world. He's better than everybody else, and he dominates Las Vegas. 4 of the 5 next-gen races have resulted with him finishing second or first. I mean, you can't argue that. But he also is one of the most sporadic drivers in the sport in terms of finishing. Like at some point, I forget during the year, somebody posted his stats where his chart, his bar graph, or whatever the hell you want to call it, was up, down, up, down, up, down in terms of his finishing results because he's either DNFing or winning the race or finishing top 5. So yeah, I don't hate playing this just simply out of the fact of the price itself, because Byron is probably a top 5 car, and you're going to give me a top 5 car versus another top 5 car at plus 150. Yeah, I'm going to take that.
Corey LaJoy minus 115 versus Daniel Hemrick. Kind of like it. I like the Rick Ware-ness of the ride.
Yeah. But I mean that's like shitbox, ultimate shitbox.
Yeah. Am I just getting too cute at that point?
Yeah, I don't know. At minus 115 aside, I don't know if I can get there on that one. The Cindric over Gragson number, that one actually intrigued me. Because I don't think either of these two guys should be minus 130 against anybody on a mile and a half at this stage of the season. And
I just put it into the Sim Center and got the number, the push I needed, so it will be going on the card.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, go subscribe to wintherace.info. That is very much worth it.
Yeah. It's between the DFS projections and the Sim Center bot and that kind of stuff, and Ryan does a great job.
Yep.
Fade SHR with Cindric at plus money, given what we talked about Penske.
The only thing is Cindric sucks here too. Like he's bad as well. And that's my only worry there. But the one thing is like Cindric has qualified it well recently and he's been running fast.
Yeah. And Gragson just like hasn't been good over the last like couple months.
SHR, man, they're
awesome. And then he's been fading. Denny at minus 105 versus Chris Bell is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm not going to mess with those guys, though.
Yeah, they're both too good, but like you can get Busher versus Brad. You can get Eric Jones versus Stenhouse.
Spinney versus Eric. Do you trust Legacy?
I don't trust either of them. They could both crash each other out on lap 1.
Yeah, the only so the matchups that I was really shopping on there is actually John Hunter Nemechek over Jimmy Johnson, which has actually moved in favor of Nemechek to a price that I'm not playing. But Jimmy Johnson has been so bad when he's raced in the Gen 7 car.
Yeah, he just can't drive this car, and that's fine. Let's see.
Yeah, you can still get Gibbs 3-1 top 5 at Bet365 too.
That doesn't suck.
Which I don't hate.
Brad versus Bubba. Jones versus Cindric. Jones is plus 120 here.
Well, there you go. Bet 100 aside. Or let me think about this. Bet 100 on Cindric on Caesars at even money, and then bet 95 on Jones here. So you guarantee yourself a tiny little profit.
Hocevar over Gragson?
I don't hate that. The only thing I worry about with Hocevar is his aggressiveness and him wrecking.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm adding Kyle Busch over Truex. Truex will be fishing by halftime.
Oh man.
Here I am betting Kyle Busch again. Like I don't. What am I like? My card's already getting too long. It's
The only
stupid.
thing I will say about that matchup is I have a hard time believing that an RCR car at a track that rewards just overall speed is going to qualify better than a JGR car.
Yeah, that's fair. But the cool thing
Albeit
about that bet
it
is
is
it's
Bush's
not
home
for
track.
qualifying; it's for the actual race. And I know Truex will be taking a nap. You remember, like in the beginning of Talladega Nights, where the guy like gets out of his car and goes and gets a hot dog and like walks around, and then
Yes.
Ricky Bobby gets in. Like that's Truex at this point. Like he's good. He's done his time. He's
Oh
ready to
my
get a hot
God.
dog, go do some fishing, call it a day.
Oh lordy.
Yeah, I mean he's gonna rub it in my face. He did. There was one race. What was the race he got like third like a month ago? And like I went all in on against him, and he obviously just
Oh, I can't remember where that was, but I remember you were texting me and
I was
you were
livid.
like going off on
I
it.
had Blaney versus him. Blaney was fourth,
Yeah.
Truex was third. I had
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. So I'll probably rub my face in it again, but you know, I got to get some Marty steam out on the way out. Anything else you want to look at before we get out of here? Before the card gets too aggressive? Anything else we should be paying attention to?
No, there's not a ton at this time, but I do
Yeah,
think that there's going to be some. Just make sure you see who has fast car this weekend, and then bet accordingly. I mean, and bet playoff drivers. If you
yeah.
find matchups with playoff guys versus non-playoff guys at on similar levels,
Yeah.
heavily lean towards the playoff driver.
Especially like if like a non-playoff driver looks really good in practice and qualifying, maybe they look like crap in practice, but they just qualify really well.
Yeah,
Might be a good opportunity to get a little value there. All right, let's
potentially.
recap the card. Let's give the people our favorite bets and let's get out of here. So I have Chris Bell at 10. I added Tyrone Gibbs at 24. That's more of a I gotta be on it when he wins, so I'm on it. Tyrone Gibbs top 10 at plus 120. Hammered it on it. He'll probably finish 11th. That's okay. I took LaJoy over Hemrick, and I took KFB over Truex. Brian is also on Chris Bell, so fade Chris Bell. Brian is on Tyler Reddick. He could win because I'm not on it.
Or a good
Nick
wreck.
is also on the Gibbs top 10, so he's finishing 11th for sure. And then Byron over Larson at plus 150, which I kind of like. Um, Brian, it was good to get back. It was good to talk some Roval. It was good to figure out our Vegas plans. We will be back in the saddle Saturday night to recap practice, qualifying, figure out where lines have moved, value. We'll talk all of the DraftKings stuff. So make sure you subscribe to that. Make sure you subscribe to our Substack, aoppodcast.substack.com. The link is in the description. Get that email to you on race day. Get all of our plays, get our final betting card, get all that kind of good stuff. There's only 4 more of these, so let's make this count. Let's stack up our money while we can. Let's have some fun in the process. And you guys enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you next time.